What if I told you that a man connected to the discovery of Bryon Macron's blood-streaked office, and later the recipient of a chilling late-night phone call asking how to make someone disappear like Macron, was never followed up by investigators? That they had a name, they had a number, they had a traceable phone call, and still absolutely nothing. Today's episode features two interviews, both with Richard Evans, the maintenance supervisor at the Lafayette Township Administration building. Now, before we dive into the first one, let me give you a quick heads up on the second one, because it's the kind of thing that should have ignited a full-on manhunt. Stick around. Pinnacle Nation, if you're ready to hold people accountable and expose the silence, head to www.theinfamousxchief.com. You'll find everything there. Discord, Signal, anonymous case drop, Rumble, YouTube, Apple, all roads lead back to the truth. In July 2019, Evan gets a phone call in the middle of the night. A man asked him, what would it take to make someone disappear like Bryon Macron? That's not an exaggeration, that's a quote. BCI traced the call to a man in Hinckley, and then they never followed up. But we'll come back to that. First, we need to go back to the beginning, the morning of December 16th, 2016, when Rick walked into a township building full of red flags and found no one listening. It's March 2019 when Evans sits down with the investigators to describe what he found that morning. He showed up for work expecting business as usual. Instead, he finds the township building unlocked, lights on, conference room door cracked, and blood on the floor. Chairs knocked over. He finds Bryon Macron's glasses and coat. Macron had told Evans and trustee Michael Costello that he was meeting with an angry resident that morning. He also said Deputy Jim Sanford from the Medina County Sheriff's Office would be there for backup. But come showtime, only Bryon showed up. Sanford later claimed he didn't even know about the meeting. Costello never even left his house, even though by all accounts, he should have at least already been in motion to come to this meeting. He kept talking about it. Evans, stunned, started calling people. No one knew anything. He and Costello, who arrived later, searched the building and finding Macron's cell phone face down on a desk. The building had no cameras, supposedly, inside, no alarms, no preserved evidence. And here's the part that still doesn't sit right. Despite the blood, the coat, the glasses, and the missing person, nobody locked down the scene. No crime scene tape, no evidence text swarming the place, just confusion, a few phone calls, and a quiet shuffle back to business as usual from the Medina County Sheriff's Department. So now you're going to hear it in Rick's own words.
Okay, we're on the tape now. Today's date is March 18th, 2019. The time now is approximately 1:05 p.m. I am presently with Richard W. What's the W stand for?
Wayne.
Richard Wayne Evans. And is it okay if I call you Rick, or what do you like going by?
Rick.
Okay. For the purpose of the tape, could I have your date of birth and your social security number? You still live on Ryan Road?
Yes.
Okay. Rick, what I'm here about today is I've been requested by the Medina County prosecutor and the sheriff's office to review the investigation of the questioned death of Bryon Macron, and it's also associated with the missing persons. That's how it started off with back in December 16th of 2016. How do you know Bryon, or how did you know Bryon?
As a trustee.
Okay. And you work for the township here?
Yes.
How long have you worked for the township?
I've been here since end of July of 2014.
Okay, so
that's when I started.
Okay, so you knew him for a little bit over 2.5 years?
Yes.
Okay. And the trustee's position is kind of like a councilman or something like that. He kind of oversees the budget and expenditures and job performances and a myriad of other things.
Yes.
How many trustees are there in the township?
Three.
Okay. Who else at the time of Bryon's disappearance? Who else were trustees here at that time?
Linda Bowers and Mike Costello.
Okay. And is Bowers and Costello still trustees here?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't we start off? Why don't you tell me what you found when you came into the office the morning of the 16th of December 2016? What you saw, what your observations were, if you recall.
When I come in, I got the mail in the paper, and I would always bring it in and lay it down on the desk down here.
At the reception area?
Yes.
Okay. Would you always come through the front door?
Front door.
Okay.
I come through the front door, and I noticed these lights was on. No other lights was on.
You're talking about the conference room
The
lights?
conference room lights was on. And that door was open, about just like it is right now.
Okay, so slightly ajar, maybe a foot?
A foot ajar.
And that door leads into the conference room we're in now?
Yes,
okay.
Correct. And I was the last one out of this building, so I knew that I didn't leave this light on in this conference room. There was, I knew that all the lights were shut off. And when
Was the doors locked when you came in?
No.
The front door was not locked?
That front door was open. That's what caught me off guard.
Okay. Did you see any other cars or any tracks or anything to give you an indication anybody else was here?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
But I didn't look outside. Okay. I guess I wasn't looking for that.
Yeah.
So I proceeded down this hall back here to this conference room. And as I got closer to this door, I could see that pool, well, like a pool or like a pool of blood right here.
Okay.
And so I thought, oh my God. So we were supposed to meet Bryon here. Mike and I was supposed to meet Bryon.
Mike Costello?
Yes.
What time were you supposed to meet him there?
At 7:45. It was 7:45. And as I come down that hall, when I seen this, I thought, oh my word, Bryon's in here. I thought, okay, so he met this angry resident that he was supposed to meet.
Okay, is that what you and Costello were going to meet Bryon over? Was the angry resident?
Yes, we was all going to meet him.
We'll talk more about that in detail.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I went to push that door open because I thought, oh my word, he's in, he's probably laying behind the door. That's what I thought.
So you were concerned that he was injured?
That he was in here. So I pushed that door open, and when that door come open to the wall, I'll tell you, there's no feeling. I can't describe that feeling of.
What did you see when you pushed the door open? Now, did you come through the door, or you just pushed open the door?
I just pushed it open. I didn't come in. There was this table. The corner of this table was up here. These chairs were in disarray. They were tipped over, and his glasses was laying right here, broke. And his coat, his reflective.
Like a traffic safety coat.
Safety coat, yes.
Orange or green, whatever.
That coat was laying over here it was laying over here somewhere by the chair or on the chair. It was over here.
Okay.
So right away, I called Mike. Because I thought, oh my God, they beat me to the punch. They obviously, I thought, okay, so Bryon was hurt. So Mike took him to the hospital or wherever.
So that was your thought when you found the scene this way?
Yes. Okay. So I called Mike right away and I said, Mike, where are you?
Did you call Mike on his cell phone?
On his cell phone.
From your cell phone?
Yes.
Okay.
From my cell phone to his. And I said, where are you at? And Mike's like, I'm at home. I said, you're not with Bryon. Where's Bryon? He's like, I'm not supposed to meet there till 7:45, 7:45. And I said, well, something obviously happened here. He's like, well, is Jim Sanford there? And I said, no, there's nobody here. So that was my next phone call, was to Jim Sanford. Mm-hmm. I said, Jim, where are you at? I said, are you with Bryon? Do you know anything are you with Bryon? He's like, no. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
And for clarification purpose, Jim Sanford is a deputy, or was a deputy with Medina County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, correct.
And did he live here in the area, or how?
No, Grafton.
Okay.
No, not Grafton.
Okay, so he did live in the community, is bottom line?
Yes.
And why was he supposed to be here, or what was your understanding that he was going to be here?
Bryon told Mike and I that there was this angry resident.
Mm-hmm. Can you identify who it was?
Did not. I could not tell you. He did not disclose no names. It was just an angry resident. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, don't you think that it would be wise to have somebody from the sheriff's department here? And he's like, yes, Jim Sanford's going to be here. Mm-hmm. I said, oh, okay. So we made the arrangement that Jim Sanford was going to put his cruiser in my shop up here, to where it was out of sight, mm-hmm. to where when whoever the angry person was that was coming down here would not see a police car here.
Okay. Now, you made those arrangements with Jim Sanford?
No, with Bryon.
Okay, so Bryon alluded to you that Sanford was going to put his vehicle, his marked car, in the service bay.
In the service, yes.
Okay.
And so I called Jim Sanford, and he happened to be on duty, but he was down by the truck stops.
Okay.
So Jim got here, and I can't really remember from then on. Everything is so
kind of get gelled together. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know if I asked Jim. I don't know. I can't remember even if I asked him if he knew of meeting us here. And Jim obviously did not know nothing about nothing. Mm-hmm. He did not know anything.
Okay. The resident that Macron was referring to, the angry resident, can you tell me anything about what he told you about that?
No. He would not tell. No.
He just said he was an angry resident.
Angry.
Did he say what he was angry about?
No, he never did say anything.
Okay. And after all this happened, was that person ever identified, that angry resident?
No.
Okay.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. I'm going to give you my card. I've got to give it to you. Thank you. So there was furnishings in the room here. The chairs and table were knocked over.
Just as you said.
Yeah. Now, you never came in here at all then after that? Or only after you were instructed to help clean it up or something? Or that morning I'm talking about, after you discovered it, you said you didn't come in. Did you come in here, or did you?
No,
okay.
I did not come in here. It didn't take Mike very long to get here.
Okay.
That door right outside this mm-hmm. conference door, that's the garage door. Mm-hmm. So Mike and I walked out in this. We was looking for Bryon, mm-hmm. And figuring, what
maybe
he needs.
Hurt.
Yeah, he needs help. Mm-hmm. So you got to try to help him. We looked out there and we looked over in the offices over here.
So you checked around, you couldn't find him?
No.
Okay. Did you find anything else that was suspicious to you at that time? Excuse me.
His cell phone was in that secretary's office in there. Just how mine is, face down, and just laying on a piece of paper. That's the only thing that his cell phone was there.
Would that be a common place for him to put his cell phone, or from past experience, had you ever seen it there before?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Unfortunately, they later find his car down by Chippewa Lake, and 2 months later they find his body floating in the lake. How well personally did you know Bryon? Did you know him just as a working relationship, or
Yes.
did you have any kind of personal involvement?
No, I had no personal involvement with him. It was just work.
Would it be uncommon for him to meet people here at different hours? Would he come in? Either residents or other people. Did you know him to ever come into the office? I'm assuming our office hours are like 8 to 5 or 8 to 4, something like that. Do you know if he ever came into the office, off hours to do stuff?
Not that I'm ever aware of.
Okay.
I've never seen him. No,
okay.
I don't.
As far as like the meeting of the angry resident, was that had that ever happened before? Do you know if he'd ever went through that?
No.
Okay. But on this particular time, when did he first tell you about meeting the angry resident? How much in front of the actual time that he was supposed to meet him?
It was the day before, on Thursday.
And he said he was going to take care of contacting the sheriff's deputy to come in for protection. He was going to orchestrate all that?
Correct,
okay.
Yes.
Did he also tell Mr. Costello that?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to go through a couple of questions that I've thought about here. Do you know, or do you have any information that Bryon or anybody else was meeting people here, males or females, off hours? Do you ever have any indication? Ever come in the office, find something, you find a piece of clothing or some artifact or something that doesn't make sense to you? Okay.
No.
And Bryon ever told you he was meeting anybody here?
No.
Okay. Now, is the building, was it alarmed back then? Did they have an alarm on it?
No.
And they didn't have any cameras on the building. They had it on the fire department, but not here.
No. There was none even on the fire department.
I mean, the camera?
No.
Oh, okay.
We had no security care period.
Okay. Do you know if Bryon would allow anybody else to meet people here? Did he ever tell you, hey, as an example, Jim Sanford's going to meet somebody at the building, he needs to do an interview tomorrow night or something like that? Nothing? He never told you that?
No.
After Bryon's body was found, have you heard or learned anything that you think might be important to the investigation, rumor, anything else?
The only things that I know that I would like to disclose that I know that is true, that I felt is a little odd, as I learned. We have a paper shredder. It's right out here in the garage, and for it was probably the last 3 months of, it would probably be, September, October, November. I noticed that, because I always come in here every day, I check the mouse traps, I just check the building,
Well, and it's kind of like a part of your assumed duties. You make everybody happy that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
This paper shredder was constantly full. So I never said anything. I'm just assuming that, I had no reason to doubt that the girls weren't back here doing a lot of shredding of documents after so many years that we have to shred and get rid of.
Right, after retention periods.
Yes.
Yeah.
So after this whole thing with Bryon, there has never been no more paper shredding back here. And I asked them girls, I said, well, you guys done a lot of paper shredding. And them girls never went back there.
Okay. How much paper would you say was shredded? Yeah, would it be like a garbage bag full or more or less?
Well, at one time there was one big garbage bag, a 50-gallon garbage bag, full, and it was sitting out there. And then there was another one that was full that was in the machine.
Oh, okay.
So naturally, I take them and I throw them in the dumpster.
And that was after you removed the one from the machine after Bryon disappeared?
No.
Or it was before?
That was before.
Would you say it was a short time before or a long time before?
Short time.
So
it was in that month of December sometime.
Okay. Did you ever talk to Bryon about it? Did he ever say anything?
No, I was just assuming that it was the girls getting. I had no reason to question why.
Did Bryon ever talk to you about his personal life?
No.
He didn't say anything about what he does socially or nothing like that. Any outside relationships or anything like that. Because this was a part-time job.
Yes, this was part-time, and he.
How many hours a month would you say he worked here when he physically would be in the office?
He was never here more than. I didn't see him very much, so I don't know. I couldn't honestly answer that. It wasn't very much.
Okay, but he did have keys for the office. He had to come in. He didn't have to call you to come over.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And I'm assuming that's the way it was with all of the trustees. Probably all the trustees had keys.
Yeah, I don't know if Linda has a key or not, but I know Mike has a key, and I have a key, and then obviously the girls that work in here.
Did Bryon ever tell you about his military service?
He said that he was in the Marine Corps.
Okay. You ever talk about any specifics about that?
No.
He ever talk to you about, a lot of times military people are into weapons and stuff. Did he ever talk to you about guns or anything?
Well, yeah, he said that, because I asked him one day about, because he's into jewelry, and he was always packing a bag of jewelry. I said, Bryon, how do you get away with, he's like, well, I carry a gun. I says, well, obviously you probably, if not, you should, because I said, you're carrying a lot of money around.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh yeah, I have a gun.
Did he ever show it to you?
No.
He ever tell you where he got it at or anything like that? He just told you he carried a gun?
Yeah, he said he always.
You never saw it?
Nope, never seen a gun.
What do you think happened with Bryon?
I really.
What's your, I'm not going to hold you to.
I believe this was all self-inflicted.
Is that right?
I truly believe that.
Why do you believe that?
Number one, if, with him being the only one that was here for however many hours he was here in the morning, he was the only, his car was shown coming in, and his car was the only one got shown going out. And his footprints that he left going out this hall. He was a big boy. Listen, I believe, Bryon, you would have a struggle. If you know, I believe if there was actually going to be a struggle, there would be a lot
more destruction and stuff.
Very much so.
Okay.
Very much so.
Okay. Did he ever talk to you about his ability to fight or his
No.
training?
No.
Either in the military or otherwise?
No.
Okay. It's my understanding he was on what's called a fast team in the Marine Corps. Fast teams are usually a forward deployed unit that is on, usually they're amphibious, and they're the people that go in and get people out of, like when they evacuate an embassy or they have to put people on the ground real quick, they're ready to go all the time. Usually they're a little bit aggressive, more so.
I could never see him being that way.
Okay. What about his personality? Did he ever seem happy, depressed, easygoing, hard to get along with, stuff like that? You ever notice, especially right before he disappeared? Was there anything uncommon that happened?
Well, listen, and it was on Thursday. That Thursday, he was here. He was here up in my office, into my shop all day, and that struck me odd. That struck me very, and he was so happy-go-lucky, and it was just like it. That raised a flag. I mean, I really never thought anything about it, but it's like, why is he acting so funny? And he always wanted to make sure. He's like, well, you are going to meet me. And he would keep coming into my office, and for me to reassure him that I am going to be here. And I said, yes, Bryon. I says, I'm here to help you. I says, if there's, we can. You'll have Jim here, Mike will be here, I'll be here. I said, nobody's, we're not going to let anybody hurt you. But it was like he was so happy that day. I mean, more happier than I've ever seen.
Is that right?
Yes.
Do you know if he took medication at all?
That I don't know. If he took any medications, I don't know.
Did he ever seem to you to be the kind of person that would hurt himself prior to that?
No.
Was he moody or anything? Or
no.
Okay. Talk about bad family. You know anything about his family life?
No.
Okay.
No.
I know he has 3 kids.
3 kids. Yep, one's in college, and I think the other 2 are in high school.
Yeah.
So.
The meeting that he set up with the angry citizen that he's going to have you come down, when did he set that up? Do you know when he talked to the angry citizen? How much in advance of his disappearance that was supposed to have happened? Did he say, hey, I talked to the guy today, he's going to meet me here on...
No, I never knew nothing about it until that Thursday.
Okay. And that was on Thursday?
Yes.
So that was a Thursday before he disappeared?
Yes. Because he disappeared on Friday.
And at this time, and prior to this time, you started noticing that there was a lot of stuff being shredded?
Yes.
Okay.
And and he, there for them few months, I noticed that he would he always come in on Mondays with his garbage and put it in that dumpster. Now he would watch to see, he knew that the garbage guy, that the truck came anywhere from 9 to 10 o'clock. Bryon was always here every Monday and put his garbage in there. Right before.
How much stuff would he put in there? Would he have a box or several boxes? Or?
2-3 bags.
Okay. When you say bags, like garbage bags?
Big black garbage bags, like the 50-gallon bags.
Okay, would have been garbage. It could have been garbage from his house.
I don't know.
Okay.
I guess I never had a reason to doubt.
Just one of those things. So I've been. people at the office sometimes will carry stuff and then throw in our dumpsters.
Okay, yeah.
You know, so and it's probably that kind of thing. You know, say, well, you know,
Yeah,
they missed
maybe
their garbage guy at home didn't come or something like that. So
missed the garbage day or whatever. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. What time was he supposed to meet with this guy? What time had
8 o'clock. 8 a.m.
And what time did you get here that morning? You got here.
I can't recall.
But it should be easy enough to tell because as soon as you got here and you realized something was wrong, the next thing that you did, you called Mike Costello.
Yeah.
Okay, so we ought to be able to track that easy enough on phones and stuff like that there. Had you ever seen Macron's wife in here? Had she ever come in the office?
No, I've never seen her in here. I don't know.
Have you ever met her?
Yes.
Okay. Had you met her before? Or?
At township functions and what have you.
Okay.
Yeah, I would never. I never went over to his house. I never went. You know, I don't.
And Bryon never talked to you about his domestic relationship, his relationship with his wife. He never told you anything about how they get along or anything?
No.
Okay. Do you have any questions of me?
No.
Okay.
But I sure hope that.
Well, I'm looking at every angle on the thing, and
I really hope that you guys can get, because you know, even to this day, you know, I always wear my work shirt, my Lafayette work shirt while I'm at work, but I hate to go, you know, because everybody's still and everybody's curious. I'm just as curious as there has to be a reason.
Yeah.
And it kind of puzzles us all, you know. It kind of puzzles us.
Yeah. Well, it's not the usual kind of
behavior that you would.
Yeah. You don't have. You know, whether he did it himself or there's another actor in it, it's kind of hard to put your fingers on. Some things are so inconsistent and stuff like that. Did he ever tell you he was ever threatened by anybody?
No, other than that resident.
Okay.
He said that
he actually said he was threatened by that guy.
Yeah.
What did he say?
He said that guy wants to kill him.
And what did he want to kill him over? Did he ever tell you?
No, there was never a reason why or a name.
I would have thought that if I thought you were going to kill me, and I'm talking to a friend, I'd say, hey, Rick Evans wants to kill me.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Did you find that strange when he didn't come up with a name? Especially since it was a resident? Because I would have thought he would have said, hey, Rick, do you ever talk to Charlie Snyder? Is he kind of loony or something like that? I would have thought he would have done something like that.
Yeah, no, he never, nope. He just said it was always an angry resident.
He never identified him. When did that angry resident information first come to you? Now, that was on Thursday? Thursday before he disappeared. Okay, I just want to make sure I understand that correctly.
Thursday, yep.
It hadn't been mentioned prior to that.
I never knew anything about it.
Was there any big issues going on in the township at that time that a resident may have been angry over?
We was trying to get that our fire levy passed to build a new fire station.
Did that pass?
Yes.
And
that was after.
I'm assuming there was a tax, like what do you call a property tax or some kind of. How big a issue was that?
It was like I think it was like a 4.7
mil.
Yeah.
So on a dollar, it's 4.7 cents, or no, it's 0.47 cents, right? 7 mil. I think that's what it is. Yeah. That's not very much for a fire station, especially in your backyard.
But that was the only thing that I could think of, that if there was an angry resident, that they'd have been angry over the.
But Bryon never told you specifically what he was angry about?
No.
Okay. And never identified him?
No.
Do you know if he talked to Mr. Costello about who that was? Did he ever identify him to Mr. Costello?
No.
Okay. And subsequent to Bryan's disappearance, had anybody ever come forward and complained that they talked to Bryan and didn't get satisfaction from whatever their complaint was?
No.
Nothing like that?
No.
Okay.
Just struck me as a little odd that if there was an angry resident, why? And if you knew that would be just like with you. If you knew that there was somebody angry, why? And they threatened to kill you. They said that they was going to kill you. I'll tell you what. I know I would not come in here by myself.
Why would you tempt fate? You know what I'm saying?
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I don't care even if I did have a gun, I would not come in here knowing that not by myself.
Bryan's relationship with Sanford, were they close?
Yeah, they were real close.
Now,
from what I gathered,
I would have thought that if I'm being threatened, especially if someone's threatening my life,
yes,
and I have a friend that's a police officer or a law enforcement officer in the community,
yes,
that'd be the guy I'd go to and say, hey,
yes,
this guy is making these kind of threats. And I'd probably want to make an incident report so in case something did happen.
Exactly. I think that you could have, that problem could have been resolved and that guy could have been arrested for making that kind of threat.
Yeah.
Especially
if you threatened to kill him.
Before it even took place.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
Okay, well, I don't have any more questions, but, you know, if something comes up in the future, maybe give you a holler. I did talk to your attorney. I don't know if you...
Okay.
The attorney called me on Saturday and I talked to him.
Oh, Henry Hilo?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I did talk to him. I told him, I goes, he was concerned that there may have been, some liability or culpability on your part. And I go, no, I said, I'm just doing interview witnesses or interviewing witnesses to find out if there's been something that hasn't been talked about or stuff like that.
But if there's anything that you guys, please feel free to call.
Okay. Could I have your cell? Do you have a phone at home too?
No.
Okay. And this is the phone you use all the time?
That is
your personal?
Yeah, that's my personal.
Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you. Does the township provide cell phones to the employees?
No.
Does the fire department have cell phones that are provided by the township?
Now, I don't know if they do. They may have some up there. I don't know.
Okay.
I can't honestly answer that.
What about as far as like the township trustees? Do they have a phone that's
personal?
So they just use their personal. How many phones do you know that Bryan had, or had you ever seen him with? Did you see him?
Only with one phone.
Okay. And you know what kind of phone it was by any chance? You're probably not.
No,
I mean, that's a long time.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
I've only seen him with one phone.
Okay. Well, that's all I got right now. Rick, I appreciate you meeting with me.
Charlie, appreciate everything.
You got my card. If something comes up, you hear something, I don't care if it's scuttlebutt or rumor. Call me, let me know. Give me a place to look, and then I'll try to turn the rocks over and
absolutely.
Find out. The advantage I've got is that I don't have a timeline like, technically this is a cold case. So it's more important that I take my time and look everywhere.
Thorough, yes.
And rather than no more damage can be done to Bryan than what's has already occurred. So I can't save him. The only thing I can do is try to find out what happened and give everybody the answer they need. So, like I say, if you have any questions, you come up with any information, anything of concern. I think it's interesting about the shredder though. Like that's
the shredder in the garbage. That was what after you learn things after.
Little observations at the time might not register with you, and then later on you go,
Wow.
That was kind of suspicious. So.
Well, and then I asked the girls. I says, hey, you guys are done shredding. And they're like, well, they won't go back. Number one, Kim won't go back here because she's afraid there's going to be mice back here. So she won't go back there. She's like, you know that I won't. And it's like, well, whatever. I just figured you did. I didn't know.
Is this like an industrial shredder?
Yeah. It's a big one that you can put in quite a few pages at a time.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Well, Rick, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'll go ahead and stop the interview for right now. Like I say, keep my card. You end up talking to somebody, anybody that has any information, I'm willing to come out and talk to them.
That's awesome.
And try to get some closure to this, okay?
Yes. I greatly appreciate it very much.
No problem, Rick. Thank you.
Now that you've heard what Rick walked into that morning, let's talk about what followed years later. In July of 2019, Rick Evans is asleep when his phone rings. His wife answers. The man on the other end asks for Rick. Then he says, "What would it take to make someone disappear like Bryon Macron?" Rick, stunned, checks the number. There's no caller ID present, but BCI is able to trace it to a real person. Logan Patrick Cosick, who was living in Hinckley at the time. BCI agent Charlie Snyder shows Rick a photo of Cosick during the interview. Rick doesn't recognize him, and what does Snyder say? "We haven't talked to him yet. Please don't say anything to anyone. Could be nothing." And that's it. No follow-up, no interview, no explanation. We have no record, none, that law enforcement ever knocked on Cosick's door, checked his story, or investigated the call further. So here's that interview, short but damning.
Okay, Richard, we're on tape now. Obviously, you know who I am. I'm Charlie Snyder with the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation. And we're here to talk about a phone call that you got relative to made inferences about Macron disappearance. And for the purpose of the tape, would you state your full name, spell your last name, and give me your date of birth?
Richard Evans, EVANS.
Okay, and we're currently in the conference room of the Lafayette Township Administration Building, and you work for the township, is that correct?
Yes, sir, correct.
And also, Bryon Macron, he was a township trustee here. Okay. We talked about the morning that you came into work and stuff like that before, but predominantly what I want to focus on today, in July of 2019, you got a phone call.
Yes.
In the middle of the night. And can you tell me a little bit about that phone call?
My wife answered my phone, and they wanted to speak to me. And I was sleeping. So I woke up from sleep, and they said, "What would it take to make somebody disappear?" And I yes, and it comes up as caller no ID.
Okay.
Or, yeah, caller no ID.
Did the voice, was it a man's voice? Could you tell race or anything?
No, I could not tell a race. I could tell it was a man's voice.
Okay. Did it sound like anybody you ever talked to before?
No, not that I could. I don't know.
I'm going to show you a picture. I'm going to actually show you what's called it's an Oleg printout. Do you know that guy?
No, sir.
Okay. He lives up in Hinckley. And his phone was used to originate the call to you.
Yeah, I don't know him.
His name, the picture I'm showing you is a Oleg photo for Logan Patrick Cosick, K-O-S-I-K. And subsequently from doing subpoenas and so forth, we were able to verify that his phone originated the phone call that you got.
Okay.
Now, I can't say that he did it, but it came from his phone.
Right.
And I would think at 2 o'clock in the morning or 10:30 at night, I haven't talked to him yet. Now, I'm planning on going to talk to him. He also made several other phone calls to people all over the area. Now, a couple in Medina, one in New Philadelphia. Is there anybody in the village lives in New Philadelphia that you know of, works here that?
No.
Okay. I'm going to ask you not to say anything to anybody until I get a chance to talk to him.
I won't.
And see, I don't know what his impetus was to call you or why he had the information that he had.
And I was wondering how he. Yeah. Why would he come up with my cell phone?
Well, and it's one thing if he just randomly dialed a number, but he called and made reference to the Macron case,
right.
And that's what is more of a concern to me. It's almost as if maybe somebody orchestrated him calling you. Is what I'm thinking, especially if you don't know him.
Right. Yeah.
Let me throw a couple more names at you here. These are people that reside. If I understand it correctly, reside when his name is Logan Patrick Cossack, and you're pretty certain you don't know who that is?
No, I do not know.
Okay. Now, where he lives at is in Hinckley. I'm sorry.
Yeah, in Hinckley. Yes.
Hinckley's in Medina County. Though,
yes, correct.
Okay. See if I can get that. Do you know a Renee Lynn Cossack by any chance?
No.
Or Paul Cossack? Do you know any Cossacks?
No, I don't know any Cossacks.
Okay. There's a Logan Cossack. I'm just going through relatives next to kin and stuff like that there. Okay. Like I say, I would appreciate it if you don't say anything to anybody.
No.
Just tell if anybody asks you, whether Charlie talked to you about how he's making progress on my phone call. That's what I got to say.
Yes, sir.
It's important because I don't want to taint anything.
I understand.
Until I get a chance to talk to him.
And I understand that.
Do you have any questions of me?
No. Okay. I would like to know why he pinpointed it. He knew who he was talking about.
Yeah.
And I would like to know.
Well, that's going to be my effort to find out exactly why he called you out of the clear blue at, that late at night and not knowing you.
Right.
That's what doesn't make sense to me. That's why I'm telling you that I think that somebody directed him to make that call. And I'll find out, hopefully, and we'll go from there, okay? But, like I say, at first I was kind of concerned. I thought, well, maybe I don't think there's really a threat issue there. I think he may have just been, somebody fed him some information and says, hey, this is what I want you to say. I want you to call this person. And if I find out who that is, we'll continue our efforts that way.
Yes.
Okay?
And I hate to send you on a wild goose chase.
Well, we don't know it's a wild goose chase.
But if in fact,
yeah,
and I don't know, Charlie. I'm so convinced that Bryon brought this on to himself. Mm-hmm. I think that this was something that Bryon did.
Mm-hmm.
But who? There again, I don't know. I don't know. You watch Dateline, and you can, investigators figure it out 20 years later who actually did it.
Yeah.
I guess there could be a truth to it.
Well,
I don't know.
I'm following up on a lot of different things, and the problem is that.
But it's hard. There's a lot of times that I, especially in this building,
mm-hmm.
and I still think about it. Bryon was a good friend, and I still think about him.
Mm-hmm. But is there any reason anybody would think that you were involved? Did you guys ever have a quarrel or a fight or a disagreement or anything like that? I mean,
no.
I just like I say, some of the other people I've talked to, the private investigator keeps, he'll point a finger at you, not saying that you did it, but saying that, some of the stuff is really suspect, stuff like that. I'm going, okay, well, what? Tell me what it is, So,
right.
And nobody can ever put the frosting on the cake. You can mix the batter, but you got to bake the cake and put the frosting on it from my standpoint,
Yeah. No,
so.
Bryon and I, we always had a good relationship.
Yeah.
And the day before, and I can remember this plain as day. It was on a Thursday, He was up there in my truck shop. That's where I was just at. And he was in my truck shop. He was up there all day. And I just couldn't.
That would be unusual.
He was there all day. And he acted just, I don't know. It was just something out of the ordinary. He was just too happy-go-lucky, and that it wasn't Bryon. I've never seen him like that.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
So, yeah, like I say, I still think, you know, when I think about him, I remember the day, the December 16th, plain as day. I can remember when they, you know, in February. Can remember when we buried him. Can remember everything. You know, it just.
Have you talked to the family members recently?
No. That she's. You know, I give you a little bit of background that. You know that one guy. Oh crap, Paul Hardman. And listen, it's that is crazy. That's strange, weird. So no, I'm not. I don't associate.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, he's by far no investigator. I'll talk to you. I ain't talking to him.
Well, and that's your prerogative. You know, that's your prerogative. I thank you for your time.
Charlie, thank you for coming out.
I hope your surgery goes well, okay?
Oh, I do too.
I'll try not to bother you.
No, bother me at any time.
Well, I mean, you know, I'll make sure you're back on the mend. How long are you going to be off work?
Oh, they said only about a week.
Yeah. When I had back surgery, they got me up that night and had me walk.
Well, mine's an outpatient.
They call outpatient. You might stay 24 hours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it just depends on whether you can go to the bathroom.
Okay, got it.
Well, that's how it was in my case. You had to go to the bathroom first.
Well, I'll go to the bathroom. I'll do whatever I got to do.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop this.
Okay.
So let's break this down. You've got a township employee who discovered the blood, who received the chilling phone call, who gave everything he had to investigators. And as in Charlie's own words, he put the icing on the cake of the batter. And what did Charlie do? Nothing. A man calls, references a dead public official by name, and asks how to make someone disappear. The number is traced, the identity is confirmed, and still no follow-up. Not by BCI, not by the Medina County Sheriff's Office. If this wasn't a lead worth pursuing, I don't know what is. This wasn't a drop ball. This was an intentional decision to ignore the one person who might have known what really happened. And Tentacle Nation, before we leave here, I'll be doing a full segment soon covering the Dawn Pasela rally. You'll hear it all raw, unfiltered, and unrelenting, from the passionate words of attorney Kim Corral to the unveiled portrait that took everyone's breath away. We'll break down the rally, the evidence, and what this county continues to ignore. We want to take a moment to honor someone who, on what would have been her birthday, supporters, advocates, and family gathered in Cleveland to celebrate her life and demand justice for her suspicious death. Attorney Kim Corral spoke powerfully about the county's own internal report, a 9-page admission of investigative failure. She called on every one of us to demand what the county itself outlined. Interviews that were never done, evidence that was never tested, and an autopsy report that doesn't match the science. And one other thing on deck, we've got Medina's DisInfo Cartel. Also coming soon for the Tentacle Nation of Medina County, something I've tried to stay out of, politics for Medina County, but I can no longer ignore them. There's a brutal resignation from a fiscal officer who exposes a toxic environment fueled by harassment, mismanagement, and what I'm calling the DisInfo Cartel, the self-appointed watchdogs of Lafayette Township who somehow never bother to get their own facts straight. From broken desks to public record tantrums, I'll be unpacking all of it. You don't want to miss it. And again, if you're ready to hold people accountable and expose the silence, head to www.theinfamousexchief.com. You'll find everything there: Discord, Signal, anonymous case drops, Rumble, YouTube, Apple, Podcast. All roads lead back to the truth. Be loud, be heard, shake the system until the truth falls out.